What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel, where in today's video we are going to be exploring the time that Luke Skywalker visited the Sith homeworld of Exegol, found himself with his back against the wall, and was then saved by a familiar yet very unexpected face. In the canon novel Shadow of the Sith, we follow Luke Skywalker as he embarks on a journey for answers regarding his continuing visions and nightmares, which are centered upon a dark and unidentifiable presence emanating from a dark and unknown place. In the book, Master Luke ventures to Tython, where he unpacks various journals, books, and artifacts and begins studying upon the ruins of this ancient Jedi temple. Eventually, Luke takes a seat upon the Seeing Stone, closes his eyes, and enters a deep state of meditation. And it is in these moments that the Jedi Master finds himself in a place he has certainly never been before, but also one he has grown familiar with. It is a vision, yes, but there's something different about this experience for Luke. The following excerpt from the novel describes Luke's interpretation of this moment. Luke took a deep breath and realized he wasn't sitting on the Seeing Stone anymore. He looked down. He was standing now on black dirt, hard-packed, cracked. He looked up. The world was black and dry, the sky dark and filled with roiling black clouds, lit by constant flashes of lightning that shorted directly down into the ground. He knew immediately where he was. He had been here many times recently, this nightmare landscape of his vision, only now he knew its name. This was Exegol, the hidden world of the Sith, only whispered about in ancient texts, a place reachable only with a wayfinder. And by meditation, Luke took a step forward, finding the ground solid and most definitely real under his feet. He walked a small and slow circle, eyes at the horizon. Lightning flashed, lighting the farther reaches of the plain, revealing it to be featureless and dead. The same place as his visions, yes, but this felt different. This felt real. Could he have transported? True enough, he didn't know the full extent of the powers of the Seeing Stone. He had researched the place for years, but he had never fully used the stone for its ancient purpose. Had he done it? He had the holocron, or what was left of it, and the kyber crystals. Was there enough of the holocron data core left for the Seeing Stone to have been able to read it somehow, taking him to where the original owner had failed to reach all those centuries ago? And what about the kyber crystals? They resonated with the Force, their very structures in a natural sympathetic vibration with it. Were they the catalyst making the journey possible? Was that what the original pilot had tried, combining two different forms of Sith power to overcome their lack of a true wayfinder? It was then that a far more important question entered Luke's head. Could he get back to Tython? From here, the novel delves into Luke's encounter with 9 hooded, shadowy figures who attack him with real lightsabers. The duel is real, as Luke's lightsaber physically clashes with theirs, but he also finds that his opponents cannot be harmed, as his lightsaber simply glides through them and they maintain their form. And what's most interesting about this experience to me is the ambiguity around what Luke is actually going through. It clearly is a vision of some sort, but Luke has had many visions before. He's had visions of this place specifically, and he acknowledges that this one is different. He is convinced at one point that he's actually there, and what's really interesting here to me is that at the very end of this fight, as the 9 figures collectively strike at Luke, it seems like his life is actually in real danger, so much so that a Force Ghost actually steps in to stop them. And this Force Ghost is none other than Anakin Skywalker, who later goes on to suggest that without his intervention, Luke may well have not made it back to Tython. But Anakin steps in, he forces the 9 dark figures into retreat, and he returns Luke to the Seeing Stone. And in the conversation that follows between father and son, 3 extremely interesting revelations are made. The first is about the warning that Anakin issues to Luke. The second, which ties in closely with the first, is about the potential limits of a Force Ghost, and the third is about the legitimacy of Luke's visit to Exegol in terms of how real that experience really was. So at a point in the conversation between Luke and Anakin, Luke asks where the Seeing Stone took him and if it was indeed Exegol. And Anakin responds with, quote, "Hell has many names, Luke. The Seeing Stone took a part of you there, but it has taken all that I can give to bring you back." And that response from Anakin tells me that, as Luke believed, a part of him sort of really did go to Exegol. Somehow the Seeing Stone took him there. It's not entirely unlike when Luke wills himself to appear at the Battle of Crate in The Last Jedi. And that is how I interpret this experience for Luke. In The Last Jedi, Luke knew all about this power, and he gave everything he had to perform it under his own will. By that point, it was a power that he understood and had mastered, but during the time of this novel, Luke wasn't familiar with this power. The Seeing Stone, like the meditation rock on Ahch-To, had a unique connection to the Force and allowed Luke to transport his conscious awareness as well as his physical form to another place. When Luke goes to Exegol, he does not know how to return, as the transition was not performed completely under his own will, and so Anakin steps in to save his son. But in The Last Jedi, Luke understands how to get to Crate and how to get back, and he is also aware of the tremendous amount of energy that is required to do so, and that ultimately results in his transition to the Netherworld. So it seems like, through the power of the Seeing Stone, Luke was projected to Exegol, where he could see everything around him, everything felt quite real, but he could not physically harm other beings, and he also probably could not be physically harmed by them. The real danger was the inability to return, and how that division of his consciousness could have ultimately killed him. Now, going back to the first 2 points that I mentioned earlier, Anakin tries to warn Luke about a disturbance in the Force, telling him that a growing shadow cast from an ancient time is approaching and he must stop it. Now, Anakin is not only referring to Palpatine in this scene, as there is another enemy who rises for Luke in this story who fits that description, but the problem is that Anakin cannot tell Luke everything he needs to know, which brings us to the limitations of a Force ghost. Throughout this entire exchange, the Force ghost of Anakin is struggling. Despite being a spirit, which we would think is free of mortal pains and of physical limitations, Anakin is actually in agony as he struggles desperately to speak to his son. He gasps in pain as his blue silhouette fades in and out, flickering before Luke's very eyes. He is in literal pain as the Force seems to be fighting his attempts to interfere with things taking place in the mortal realm. Anakin tells Luke that the power required to save his son took all he had to give, and as he continues to speak to Luke and attempts to share vital pieces of information, it's almost as if the Force is pulling him away, not allowing him to tell Luke the whole truth. So instead, Anakin issues a warning, but he knows that he cannot tell Luke everything he would like to. And this seems to give us more insight on what Obi-Wan meant when he told Luke that he could not interfere if Luke chose to face Vader. Force ghosts can interact with the physical realm to varying degrees based on the circumstances, but their ability to change the outcome of situations that will have lasting impacts on the galaxy is limited. That's not their purpose, especially if the acts are done completely on their own will, as opposed to a Force wielder in the mortal realm reaching out to establish a deeper connection with them to achieve their goal. But that covers the points that I wanted to hit, so on that note, we are going to close this video out here. I found this interaction between Luke and Anakin to be extremely fascinating, and so I wanted to share some pieces of it and give my thoughts on it with you guys. For anyone who hasn't read Shadow of the Sith and you may be considering it, I would highly recommend. I would consider this one to be a pretty essential book for those interested in the sequel era, but that is going to wrap things up for me, so thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe, have a wonderful day wherever you may be, and of course, may the Force be with you always.